December 25th, 1875. Christmas Day, Clinton, Mississippi. Down in the cellar of Chilton's store, candlelight flickers across two faces. One black, one white. Charles Caldwell, 45 years old state senator of Mississippi, sits across from Buck Cabell, the man he thought was his friend. The smell of whiskey mixes with damp earth. Laughter echoes off stone walls. Caldwell feels it in his gut, that warning his grandmother taught him back when he was property. Something's wrong. He came back to town to investigate threats against his nephew. Now Cabell won't let him leave without one drink. Just one drink. For Christmas. For Jesus. Caldwell knows better. But Cabell insists. They raise their glasses. The clink of glass against glass rings out in that basement. Cheers. Boom! The bullet rips through the window behind Caldwell. Tears through the back of his skull. Blood explodes across the table. His body crashes to the floor. Buck Cabell steps back. Mission accomplished. But Caldwell doesn't die. Slowly, impossibly, he rises. Blood streams down his face. He looks into the eyes of his assassin. His lips move. His final words cut through that cellar like prophecy. Don't forget that you were Christians. Then they pour in. White men with rifles and rage. They empty their weapons into his body, drag him through the dirt, haul him to his own home, and there in front of his wife, Margaret, they shoot him again, and again, and again. They stomp his body, mock his death, laugh at his blood spreading across the floor on the day celebrating Christ's birth. Margaret Caldwell watches her husband murdered, watches them desecrate his corpse, watches them walk away laughing. Christmas Day, the day of peace on earth, the day goodwill toward men. The killers unknown, the authorities said. The witnesses silenced by terror. For 150 years, this story was buried under textbooks, erased from classrooms, hidden behind the lie of race riot. But tonight, the grave opens. Tonight you will know the truth about the black senator who rose from chains to power in 7 years, who rewrote his state's constitution, who defended God's justice with rifle and ballot, who refused to bow even staring down the barrel of white supremacy's gun. This is Charles Caldwell. This is your stolen history. And after this story, you will never see Christmas, never see America, never see yourself the same way again. Tonight, I'm not just telling you about a murder. I'm tearing down 150 years of lies. By the end of this video, you'll discover how a slave became a state senator in just 7 years, and why white supremacists had to kill him. You'll see the real reason for the wealth gap. Not because we don't work hard, but because they murdered our leaders and stole our political power. You'll learn why Reconstruction, the only time in American history when black people held real power, had to be destroyed by terrorism. And you'll understand why this story was erased from every textbook your children ever read. This isn't ancient history. If your family lived in Mississippi, Louisiana, South Carolina in the 1870s and 80s, this terror touched your ancestors. This is why your great-great-grandparents fled north. This is why your family lost land, lost wealth, lost everything. Charles Caldwell's blood didn't just stain that basement floor. It stained your inheritance. His assassination wasn't just one murder. It was the assassination of black political power for the next 90 years. After this video, you'll never accept the lie that slavery ended and everyone moved on. You'll see the direct line from Caldwell's murder to mass incarceration. From white-line terrorism to police brutality. From the Clinton Massacre to the wealth gap. History doesn't repeat. It rhymes. And the rhyme scheme, white supremacist violence. Section 3, from chains to Senate. Charles Caldwell, the warrior. Charles Caldwell, born around 1830 in Clinton, Mississippi. Born into chains. Born into a system that didn't record his birthday. Because slaves weren't considered human enough to celebrate their birth. His parents' names lost to history. Erased. Like millions of others whose identities were stolen along with their freedom. He grew up in the deadliest slave state in America, Mississippi. 55% of the population were slaves. Cotton plantations stretched horizon to horizon. Black codes made it illegal for enslaved people to read, to write, to gather, even to pray without a white overseer watching. The penalty for learning to read 100 lashes, or losing a finger. Sometimes both. But Caldwell learned anyway. In secret schools hidden in forests and basements, enslaved people taught each other by candlelight, writing with charcoal on tree bark, risking their lives for knowledge, because they understood something their masters feared. Knowledge is power, and power cannot be chained. Caldwell became a blacksmith, one of the few trades where a slave could develop real skill. He forged horseshoes, farm tools, weapons. His hands shaped metal and fire. Those same hands would later reshape Mississippi's future. 1865, the 13th Amendment. Slavery abolished. Charles Caldwell walked out of bondage at 35 years old. Most men that age have already built their careers, their wealth, their legacies. Caldwell had nothing. No education, no property, no rights. 3 years later, he was rewriting the state constitution. 1868, only 3 years after freedom. Caldwell was elected as a delegate to the Mississippi Constitutional Convention. 94 delegates total. Only 16 were black. Caldwell was one of them, representing over 300,000 newly freed black citizens, speaking for people who'd been property just 3 years before. Think about that journey. From slave to state constitutional delegate in 3 years. From property to lawmaker in the time it takes most people to finish college. He didn't stop there. Caldwell won election as state senator, then county commissioner of Hinds County, the highest political position a black man had ever held in Mississippi. He sat in chambers where white supremacists had written laws to keep his people in chains. Now he was writing new laws. Laws about education, voting rights, justice. The white establishment couldn't believe it, couldn't accept it. Former slaves making laws for former slave owners. It violated everything they believed about racial hierarchy, about their God-given right to rule. So they started planning his murder. But before we get to his assassination, you need to understand what he accomplished. Because what Charles Caldwell and 15 other black delegates did in 1868 was so revolutionary, so threatening to white supremacy, that it required 100 years of terrorism to undo it. The Mississippi Constitution of 1868. The most progressive governing document the South had ever seen. Caldwell and his black colleagues fought for provisions that attacked white privilege at its foundation. Voting rights for all black men, not just property owners, all men. Every black man who'd been enslaved now had the power to choose his leaders, to vote on his own future. That terrified white Mississippi more than any army. Public education for all children. Free. Integrated. Open to black and white alike. Before this, Mississippi had no public school system. Rich white children went to private academies. Poor whites got nothing. Black children got worse than nothing. They got jail time if they tried to learn. Now every child could go to school, learn to read, learn their rights, learn to challenge the system. Property rights for married women, black or white. Revolutionary even by Northern standards. A married woman could own property separate from her husband, could inherit, could build wealth independently. The white supremacist press exploded with rage. Democratic Party newspapers called the Constitutional Convention a circus, called the black delegates monkeys playing at government. One paper described it as monkeys in suits pretending to be men. The black delegates responded with dignity and steel. They demanded reporters address them as Mr. Caldwell, Mr. Lynch, Mr. Revels, the same courtesy white delegates received. This wasn't about ego. This was about human dignity. For 200 years, enslaved people couldn't have last names, couldn't demand respect, couldn't claim their own humanity. Now they were demanding it. And white Mississippi lost its mind. One white delegate, A.J. Paxton, proposed an amendment. No Negro or person having as much as 1/8 Negro blood shall hold office in this state. One drop of black blood, and you were banned from power. Forever. The amendment failed. It violated the 14th Amendment too blatantly even for Mississippi. But the intent was clear. They would use any method, legal or illegal, to stop black political power. When legal methods failed, they turned to terrorism. Charles Caldwell saw it coming. He knew his life was in danger, knew every black elected official was a target. But he made a decision that would echo through generations. If I die for God's justice. I die for my people. I die as a free man. He organized black militias, trained his community in self-defense, acquired rifles, Winchester repeaters, Colt revolvers, taught black men and women to shoot, to protect their families, their churches, their right to vote. He told his people, we will vote, we will hold office, and we will defend ourselves. White supremacists called it insurrection, called Caldwell a dangerous radical, a threat to peace. What they really meant, he was a threat to their power, their control, their ability to terrorize black people without resistance. The black community rallied around him. Caldwell became more than a senator. He became a symbol, proof that black people could lead, could govern, could fight back and win. And that's exactly why they had to kill him. But the road to his assassination runs through September 4th, 1875, through a massacre that would set the stage for his murder 3 months later, through a day when white supremacy declared war on black democracy. Hold that thought, because what I'm about to show you proves they knew exactly what they were doing. This wasn't chaos. This was calculated genocide. September 4th, 1875. Moss Hill, just outside Clinton, Mississippi. 2,000 black citizens gather for a political rally. They're there to hear Republican candidates speak, to discuss the upcoming election in November, to exercise their constitutional right to assemble. 75 white allies join them, Republicans who believe in racial equality, who see black political power as justice, not threat. They're outnumbered, but they're there. The air feels wrong from the start. Green Tapley, a local barber, later testified, I suspected there was going to be trouble about an hour before the meeting. Every store in Clinton was closed, every single one, on a Saturday, in the middle of business hours. That's not normal. That's preparation. He watched them arrive. White men from Raymond, from Jackson, from neighboring counties, armed with Winchester rifles, Colt revolvers, Prussian needle guns, military-grade weapons, not farmers carrying hunting rifles. These were militia, organized, uniformed, battle-ready. They called themselves the White Line, a terrorist organization formed explicitly to restore white supremacy through violence. Their goal: stop black people from voting, remove black officials from office, return Mississippi to white control, by any means necessary. 2,000 black citizens, most unarmed, some carrying old hunting shotguns for self-defense, against hundreds of white supremacist soldiers with modern military weapons. The math was murder from the beginning. Judge Johnston Crisman, a white Democrat, stands to speak. The black crowd grows restless. They didn't come to hear white supremacist propaganda. They came to hear their own candidates. Tension rises. Arguments break out. Then it happens. A White Line member named Thompson walks through the crowd. Deputy Sheriff Wilson, a white Republican, tries to arrest him for carrying weapons illegally. Thompson laughs, says he'll do whatever he pleases. Wilson reaches for him. Thompson draws his pistol, fires, kills Wilson instantly. That gunshot was the signal. White Line militia raise their weapons, form a line, and open fire into a crowd of 2,000 black men, women, and children. Eugene Wellborn, a witness, described it. The thing opened just like lightning. Shot rained in there just like rain from heaven. Except, this wasn't heaven. This was hell unleashed. People scream, run, fall. Blood sprays. Bodies drop. Children cry for parents. Parents throw themselves over children. The crowd stampedes. Thousands fleeing in every direction. Into the woods. Toward town. Anywhere away from the guns. But the killing doesn't stop. Lewis Hargraves shot in the forehead. Dead before he hits the ground. 2 children names lost to history. Murdered in the chaos. At least 5 black men dead at Moss Hill. 3 white men killed in the crossfire. Dozens wounded. Hundreds traumatized. Families torn apart. But that was just day 1, September 5th and 6th. The hunting begins. Rumors spread through white communities. Black mob is coming to attack Clinton. Black insurrection is starting. Race war is here. None of it is true. The realities of 100 black men fled to Jackson seeking protection from federal troops. Others hid in swamps and forests and whatever shelter they could find. They weren't attacking anyone. They were running for their lives. But facts don't matter when genocide is the goal. White Line militia swept through Hinds County for 2 days, unchecked, unopposed, hunting black people like animals. They went door to door, dragged black men from their homes, shot them in front of their families, lynched them from trees, left bodies in ditches as warnings. Between 30 and 50 black people murdered in those 2 days. The exact number unknown, because many bodies were never recovered, hidden in swamps, buried in unmarked graves, erased. They also killed a white school teacher, his crime teaching black children to read, helping them escape ignorance. That was enough to earn a bullet. This wasn't random violence. This was systematic elimination of black political power. Governor Adelbert Ames, a Republican, tried to respond, tried to organize black militia units to restore order, to protect black citizens. He put Charles Caldwell in command of 2 units stationed in Jackson, gave him authority to arm and deploy black defenders. White Mississippi panicked, called it preparation for race war, called Ames a tyrant, threatened to kill every black person in the state if he didn't back down. President Ulysses S. Grant could have stopped it, could have sent federal troops to Mississippi, could have enforced the 14th and 15th Amendments, could have protected American citizens from domestic terrorism. He refused. September 14, 1875. Grant announced a policy of non-intervention, told Mississippi to solve its own problems, abandoned black citizens to the mercy of white supremacist terrorists. Without federal support, Governor Ames had no choice. October 13, 1875, he met with Democratic Party leaders. They offered a deal: disband the black militias. In exchange, White Line violence would stop. It was a lie. But Ames had no leverage. He agreed. The black militias were disbanded, the weapons confiscated. Black citizens left defenseless. Charles Caldwell knew what was coming. Knew he was a marked man. Knew every black leader who'd organized resistance was now a target. But he didn't run, didn't hide, didn't beg for mercy. He went back to Clinton, back to his home, back to his people. He spent the next 2 months preparing for death, making sure his wife Margaret would be cared for, making sure his nephew David was safe, making sure someone would remember, would tell the story, would carry the truth forward. November 1875. The election, held under conditions of absolute terror. Black voters stayed home by the thousands. Those who tried to vote were beaten, threatened, turned away. White Line militia patrolled polling stations, made clear what would happen to any black person who dared cast a ballot. Democrats swept Mississippi, took control of the state legislature. Every gain of Reconstruction immediately targeted for destruction. Every law protecting black rights marked for repeal. Every black official marked for removal or murder. Charles Caldwell watched his life's work crumble, watched white supremacy reclaim power through terrorism, watched the dream of black freedom die in a wave of blood. But he still didn't run. December 1875. Christmas approaching. Caldwell went about his business, saw his family, worked his trade, lived his life as a free man. Because bowing meant letting them win, and he refused to let them win. December 25th, Christmas morning. Caldwell went hunting north of Clinton. A normal day, a holy day, the celebration of Christ's birth, of hope, of salvation, of God entering human history to bring justice. He didn't know it would be his last sunrise. When he returned to town, he heard the news. His nephew, David Washington, had been harassed by local white men, threatened, intimidated. Caldwell decided to investigate, to protect his family, to do what black men had been forbidden to do for centuries, to defend his own. That's when Buck Cabell found him. Buck Cabell, the man who'd smiled at him in church, who'd shaken his hand in the street, who'd called him friend. Now Buck had a favor to ask. Just one Christmas drink, one toast, for old time's sake, for Jesus. Caldwell suspected the trap. Every instinct screamed danger. But refusing might have triggered the attack right there on the street. Endangered bystanders. So he agreed. Followed Buck down into that cellar, into that tomb. They poured the whiskey, raised the glasses. The moment of truth. The moment Buck had been paid to deliver. The moment white supremacy had been planning since Caldwell first picked up a ballot instead of a plow. The glasses clinked, the signal given. The assassin's finger squeezed the trigger. Charles Caldwell, state senator of Mississippi, war veteran of Reconstruction, champion of black education and voting rights, was shot in the back of the head. On Christmas Day, by men who called themselves Christians. But God wasn't finished with his story yet, because what happened next would echo through 150 years, would eventually break through the silence, would reach you here now today, learning the truth they tried so hard to bury. Before I show you what happened after his murder, if this truth is shaking you awake, if you're realizing you never learned this in any school, I need you to do something right now. Type truth in the comments below. Just that word. Truth. Because every comment tells the algorithm this story matters, that people need to see this, and the algorithm will push this to more people who've been lied to their whole lives. Hit that like button. Not for me. For Charles Caldwell. For the 50 people murdered at Clinton. For the millions whose stories were erased. This is how we fight the erasure. One view, one share, one conversation at a time. They tried to bury this story. We're going to resurrect it. Now let me show you what they did to his body, what his wife witnessed, and why his assassination wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a pattern, a blueprint, a systematic destruction of black political power that shaped America for the next century. And it's still shaping your life today. December 25, 1875, Christmas morning in Clinton, Mississippi. Charles Caldwell wakes up knowing two things. His state has fallen back into white hands, and his name is written on a death list. But he also knows something deeper. His life is not his own. It belongs to his people. It belongs to God. He decides to go hunting that morning. North of town, foxes, Fresh air, a few quiet hours in the woods. The ground crunches under his boots. His breath hangs in the cold air. The same hands that once swung hammers over a forge now hold a rifle. Not as a slave, as a free man, as a senator, as a marked target. By midday, he heads back toward Clinton. The town looks calm on the surface. Storefronts decorated for Christmas, church bells in the distance, hymns floating through the air, peace on earth, goodwill toward men. But Caldwell knows better. He can feel the tension in the glances that linger too long, in the doors that close when he walks by. Then he hears the news. His nephew David Washington has been threatened by a group of white men, harassed, intimidated, warned. The message is clear. We can get to your family. We can hurt who you love. We can touch what you cherish. Right there, Caldwell has a choice. Ignore it and hope it blows over. Or walk into danger for his family, for his name, for his dignity. You already know which choice he makes. He turns toward town. When he reaches Clinton, Buck Cabell is waiting, smiling, open arms. The same Buck who used to laugh with him, who shared drinks with him, who seemed like one of the few white men willing to treat him as a man, not as property. Buck plays his role well. Charles, come have a Christmas drink. Just one. For old times. For Christmas. For Jesus. It sounds harmless. It sounds friendly. It sounds holy. Using the name of Jesus as bait. Using Christmas as camouflage. Using religion as a weapon. Caldwell hesitates. Every instinct tells him something is off. But refusal could trigger violence right there in the street. Drag innocent people into the line of fire. So he agrees. One drink. One final act of trust. One last walk into the lion's den. They step into Chilton's store, down the stairs into the cellar. The air is colder down there, earthy, heavy. Candles flicker against stone walls. Shadows dance. 2 glasses on the table, a bottle of whiskey between them. Buck pours, smiles, talks small, keeps his eyes steady so his hands do not shake. Outside, another man waits, rifle ready. Scope aligned with the cellar window, finger resting on the trigger, listening for one sound, the clink of glass on glass. Inside, Caldwell lifts his drink. He thinks about everything that brought him here. Being born into chains around 1830 in this same county. Being whipped for daring to exist. Learning to read in secret. Becoming a master blacksmith. Walking out of slavery in 1865. Sitting in the Constitutional Convention in 1868. Fighting for black voting rights, public schools, dignity. Organizing black militias to defend his people. Watching the Clinton Massacre unfold on September 4th, 1875. 30 to 50 black neighbors hunted down over 2 days. Knowing that federal troops were not coming, that Governor Ames had been forced to disband black militias, that President Grant had turned his back, that white Democrats had reclaimed the legislature through murder and terror. He knows the price of leadership. He has been paying it his whole life. He looks at Buck, raises his glass. The man he once thought might be different. Their glasses move toward each other, inches apart. For a split second, everything hangs in the balance. The glasses touch. The sound of that clink becomes a death sentence. The rifle cracks. A single explosive shot shatters the window and tears into the back of Caldwell's head. Blood sprays across the table. His glass drops. Shards scatter on the floor. His body collapses. Silence. Then something happens they did not plan for. He moves. Slowly, impossibly, Charles Caldwell pushes himself up. His hand grips the table. His legs tremble. Blood runs down his face into his beard. He turns, looks toward the broken window, toward the shadows where the gunman stands, toward the man who pulled the trigger. He should be dead, but he is still standing, just like he has always stood. In that moment, he is not just one man. He is every ancestor who survived the Middle Passage, every slave who learned to read in secret, every soldier who fought in the Civil War, every freedman who walked into a polling station knowing the Klan was waiting outside, every mother who hid her children during a midnight raid, every father who refused to bow his head. He fixes his eyes on the men in front of him, men who go to church on Sunday, men who sing hymns, men who pretend to worship the same Christ he believes in, men who just shot him in the back on the day celebrating the birth of the Prince of Peace. His final words carry the weight of judgment and mercy at the same time. Do not forget that you were Christians. Not a plea, not a compliment, a warning, a charge sheet, a reminder that they cannot claim God while bathing in the blood of his image bearers, that you cannot celebrate Christmas while crucifying justice. Those words hang in the air like a curse and a prophecy. Then the mob pours in, boots on the stairs, shouts, laughter. The White Line assassins flood the cellar, guns drawn, faces twisted with hatred and excitement. They've heard he is still alive. They came to finish the job. They fire again and again. Bullets slam into his chest, his arms, his legs. They riddle his body with lead. His blood mixes with the spilled whiskey on the floor. They keep shooting long after he stops moving. Because this is not just about killing a man. This is about sending a message to him, to his wife, to every black person in Mississippi. But even that is not enough. They grab his lifeless body, drag it up the stairs, through the store, out into the street. His head bumps against the steps. His arms trail behind him. They haul him like a dead animal, like property again, as if the last 10 years never happened. They drag him to his own house. Margaret Caldwell stands in that doorway, the woman who watched her husband rise from slave to senator, who endured threats, harassment, constant fear, who held her breath every time he walked out the door. Now she watches them bring his body home like a trophy. They throw him on the floor in his own house, in the place where they prayed, where they laughed, where they dared to dream of a different future. Then they fire more shots into his corpse, at close range, for sport, for hate, for domination. They curse him, call him names that have echoed through 400 years. They spit on him, kick him, laugh. They want Margaret to see. They want her to remember. They want every black person in Clinton to hear what happens when a black man reaches too high. Then they leave him there, bleeding on his own floor, on Christmas Day. No one is arrested. No grand jury forms. No trial. No justice. Official reports list the killers as unknown, as if nobody saw anything, as if the town itself wasn't in on it, as if the system didn't pull the trigger. But God saw, and something else happened that day. Something the killers did not plan. They thought bullets could erase him, that terror could wipe his name from memory, that fear could silence witnesses forever. And for a long time, it looked like they were right. His story vanished from textbooks, from classrooms, from public memory. Yet it survived, in whispers, in family stories, in dusty archives, in scattered testimonies, in the oral history Margaret and others passed down. And now, in this moment, it has reached you. You are listening to a man they tried to erase. You might be asking yourself, why would they go this far? Why hunt him down on Christmas Day? Why desecrate his body in front of his wife? Why risk their reputations, their souls, their eternity? Because Charles Caldwell represented something white supremacy could not tolerate. A black man who had been enslaved now writing laws. A black community arming itself for self-defense. Black voters swinging elections. Black children learning to read in public schools. Black citizens exercising real power. He had to die, not as punishment for a crime, as a sacrifice to a system that survives on black blood. But here is the part that changes everything for you. Caldwell's murder was not a tragic exception. It was not a random outburst. It was not a few bad apples. It was part of a pattern, a blueprint used again and again across the South. Every time black people gained power, the same steps unfolded. Organize white militias, spread lies about black violence, launch an attack, kill leaders, terrorize communities, steal land, call it a riot instead of a massacre, blame the victims, forget it ever happened. Clinton was one point on a long, bloody line. In a moment, you are going to see that line. You are going to see how what happened to Charles Caldwell connects to Colfax, to Wilmington, to Elaine, to Tulsa, to Rosewood. You are going to see that this was not random hate. This was policy. This was strategy. This was genocide by another name. And when you see that pattern, you will finally understand why your family rents instead of owns, why your grandparents fled certain towns, why some neighborhoods prospered while others were burned to the ground, why the wealth gap is not an accident, but the result of deliberate organized theft. Colfax, Louisiana, April 13th, 1873. 2 years before Charles Caldwell's murder, the script had already been written. Picture a small courthouse in Grant Parish. Black men stand guard around it. Some hold old muskets. Some have shotguns. Many have nothing but their determination. They are not a mob. They are not rioting. They are protecting something sacred. Their vote. Their newly elected government. The election had been chaos. Reconstruction governments, supported by black voters, and some white allies, won offices across Louisiana. White supremacists refused to accept the results. For them, democracy only counted when it kept them in charge. So they marched. On Easter Sunday, a force of roughly 300 to 500 white men moved toward that courthouse. Many were former Confederate soldiers, trained, armed with modern rifles and even small cannon. Some rode horses. Some carried torches. All carried the same mission: crush black political power, permanently. Inside the courthouse, between 150 and 300 black men prepared to defend their elected officials. Think about that. People who had been slaves less than 10 years earlier were now willing to die for Republican government, for the idea that their vote mattered. The white force surrounded the courthouse. Shots rang out. Smoke filled the air. Cannon fire smashed into the building. For hours, the defenders held on, but it was hopeless. Their weapons were no match, their numbers too small. Eventually, many surrendered. Hands up. Weapons down. No threat. No danger. No excuse. That is when the real horror began. White attackers lined men up and shot them at close range, hunted them through the woods as they ran, executed them beside the river, piled bodies, burned them. No mercy. No prisoners. No honor. Just slaughter. At least 150 black men died at Colfax. Some historians believe the real number was closer to 300, almost all killed after they had already surrendered. And what did the courts say? The United States government finally brought a few of the killers to trial. Just 3, out of hundreds. They were convicted under new federal laws meant to protect black citizens from racial terror. Then the Supreme Court stepped in. In 1876, in a case called United States versus Cruikshank, the court overturned those convictions. The justices said the federal government had no power to punish private citizens for attacking other citizens, even when the attacks targeted black people for being black, even when the purpose was to wipe out their political rights. In plain terms, the Supreme Court told Black America this: the federal government will not protect you from white terror. You are on your own. Sound familiar? That decision echoed all the way to Mississippi. It told white line terrorists in places like Clinton exactly what they needed to hear. You can murder black voters, kill black officials, burn black communities. Washington will not stop you. Colfax wasn't an accident. It was the pattern beginning to show itself. Fast forward 25 years. Wilmington, North Carolina, November 10th, 1898. Wilmington was unique, a majority black city with a thriving black middle class, black doctors, black teachers, black business owners, black journalists, black aldermen sitting on the city council. A multiracial government actually functioning, actually serving all citizens. It was proof that Reconstruction ideals could work. That proof had to die. For months, white supremacist leaders organized a campaign to take back Wilmington, not through elections, through force. Newspapers printed lies about black men threatening white women. Politicians warned of Negro domination. Gun clubs drilled openly. Red shirt militias rode through black neighborhoods armed and unafraid. One leader, Alfred Waddell, gave a speech that left no doubt. He said they would change things, even if they had to choke the Cape Fear River with black bodies. That was not metaphor. That was a promise. On November 10th, thousands of armed white men marched into Wilmington. First target, the Daily Record, a black-owned newspaper that had dared to speak truth about white hypocrisy. They burned its building to the ground. Flames lit the sky. That fire was both destruction and symbol. Destroy the black press. Destroy the black voice. Then came the killings. White mobs roamed the streets shooting black people on sight. Some were dragged out of businesses. Some pulled from their homes. Many bodies were dumped in mass graves or thrown into the river. Estimates range from 60 to as many as 300 black residents murdered. The exact number remains hidden under lies and water. But this massacre had a new twist. It was not just killing, it was a coup. Armed white men stormed City Hall. They surrounded elected officials and forced them to resign at gunpoint. The mayor, the aldermen, black and white, all pushed out. Not by voters, by violence. They then installed Alfred Waddell as the new mayor. No election, no process, just raw power. The United States loves to talk about defending democracy overseas, yet the only successful coup d'etat in American history happened right there in Wilmington. A local government lawfully elected, openly overthrown by terrorists. No federal troops, no intervention, no punishment. Black citizens who survived fled for their lives. Many left with nothing but the clothes on their backs, houses abandoned, businesses lost, savings gone. Wealth built over decades transferred overnight to white hands. No compensation, no apology. Just theft under the cover of law. Once again, the pattern held. Black political power rises. White supremacists organize. False stories about black violence spread. Militias mobilize. A massacre follows. Leaders are killed or expelled. Land and businesses change ownership without payment. The event is renamed as a riot. Blame shifts onto the victims. History classes skip the chapter. 21 years later, the pattern sharpened again. Elaine, Arkansas, September 30th through October 7th, 1919. In Phillips County, black sharecroppers were tired of being cheated. They did the math, realized white landowners had been stealing their labor and their crops year after year. So they did something extremely American. They organized a union, the Progressive Farmers and Household Union of America. They hired lawyers, planned to sue for fair payment. On the night of September 30th, about 100 black farmers and their families gathered at Hoopspur Church, a wooden building out in the country. Lamplight glowing through windows. Men discussing legal strategy. Women and children nearby. Some men stood guard outside. They had heard threats. They knew organizing for justice put a target on their backs. Around midnight, white men approached. One was a railroad security officer. Others were local deputies. Shots were fired. To this day, accounts differ on who shot first. What we know for sure is that one white man died in that first exchange. That single death became the excuse for days of terror. White posses formed almost immediately. Reinforcements poured in from surrounding counties, even from neighboring Mississippi. Some accounts say up to 1,000 armed white men joined the hunt. They were not looking for the specific shooter. They were looking for black bodies. For a week, those posses scoured the countryside. They shot black men on sight. They killed women and children fleeing through fields. They burned homes. They executed people who tried to surrender. Some victims were forced to dig their own graves. Estimates of the dead vary wildly. Official counts at the time claimed a few dozen, mostly white. That was a lie. Later investigations suggest between 100 and 240 black people were killed at Elaine. Some bodies likely ended up in the Mississippi River. Many were never recorded. Then came the courtroom injustice. Instead of prosecuting the killers, authorities arrested over 200 black residents. 12 men were fast-tracked to death sentences on charges of conspiracy to murder whites. Their confessions were beaten out of them. Torture sessions disguised as interrogation. It took years and heroic legal battles, including help from the NCAACP, to overturn those sentences. But no one faced real consequences for the massacre itself. Again, no accountability, no justice. Economically, the message was crystal clear. If black farmers organize for fair pay, they will die. If they demand what they are owed, the response will be bullets, not contracts. The sharecropping system, slavery by another name, remained intact. White landowners kept wealth that did not belong to them. Do you see how your story keeps appearing in these places, even if your family never set foot there? Colfax, Wilmington, Elaine, each location different, the pattern the same. Now jump 2 more years ahead. Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma, May 31st to June 1st, 1921. The place they called Black Wall Street. This was supposed to be the success story. In just a few decades after slavery, black entrepreneurs in Tulsa built a thriving district. More than 10,000 black residents, over 600 black-owned businesses, hotels, theaters, restaurants, doctors' offices, a hospital, law firms, a public library, professional services, real estate companies. Not scraps, not charity, real wealth. Some black families there were millionaires in today's money. O.W. Gurley, J.B. Stratford. Names you were never taught, even though their accomplishments matched or exceeded many so-called great captains of industry in white history books. This is what black freedom looks like when it's not strangled. Then came the lie. On May 30th, 1921, a young black shoeshiner named Dick Rowland walked into an elevator in downtown Tulsa. A white teenage elevator operator, Sarah Page, was inside. Something happened. Most likely he tripped and bumped into her. She screamed. He ran. That was it. The next day, a local white newspaper threw gasoline on the spark. Their headline all but called for a lynching. Rumors spread that Rowland had assaulted, even raped a white girl. No evidence, no trial, just a familiar script. A black male beast, a white female victim, a community whipped into fury. By the evening of May 31st, a white mob gathered outside the courthouse where Rowland was held. They demanded he be handed over, lynched, murdered without trial. Black veterans, many fresh from World War I, decided they would not watch another innocent man die. They armed themselves and went to the courthouse to protect him. Tension exploded. Shots were fired. Nobody knows who pulled the trigger first. But once again, white Tulsa used that first shot as license for mass murder. For the next 18 hours from late May 31st into June 1st, hell descended on Greenwood. White mobs, estimated at nearly 10,000 people, invaded the district. Many were deputized on the spot by local police, given badges and weapons, told to go get some niggers. They looted black businesses, set fire to homes, shot residents trying to escape. Airplanes flew overhead, not passenger planes. Small private craft dropping incendiary devices. Firebombs. Think about that. White citizens and possibly local authorities used planes to bomb American citizens on American soil, long before Pearl Harbor, long before 9/11. By the time the fires died, 35 city blocks of Greenwood lay in ashes. 1,256 homes destroyed. Churches gutted. The hospital ruined. Every mark of black prosperity deliberately wiped out. Official death counts at the time listed 36 people killed. Witnesses and later research show the true number was likely around 300 black residents. 10,000 black people were left homeless overnight, herded into internment camps, forced to carry passes to move around the city. Meanwhile, white looters ransacked the ruins for valuables. Insurance companies refused to pay claims citing riot clauses. The city changed building codes, requiring expensive materials black residents could not afford to rebuild with. No restitution. No justice. Many survivors left Tulsa with nothing. Those who stayed never fully recovered what they lost. And for 75 years, Oklahoma schools said nothing. If you grew up in that state, your teachers might have taught you about the Alamo, about Custer's last stand, about the Boston Tea Party, but not about the night your people's wealth went up in flames under the protection of the state. Finally, Rosewood, Florida. January 1923. A smaller town, a similar story. Rosewood was a predominantly black community in Levy County. Families owned land. Some ran successful businesses. It was not Black Wall Street, but it was solid, stable, quiet. Black land ownership in the Jim Crow South was a miracle all by itself. On New Year's Day, a white woman in a nearby town, Fannie Taylor, claimed a black man had attacked her in her home. Evidence later suggested she was covering for an assault by a white lover. But truth did not matter. White mobs formed quickly. They first targeted a black man they suspected, then widened the circle. Over several days, somewhere between 200 and 500 armed white men descended on Rosewood. They killed at least 6 black residents. Some accounts say as many as 150. They burned virtually every black home, every black church, every black business. Survivors fled into nearby swamps, hiding for days, walking miles without shoes. Children freezing at night, families separated, some never reunited. By the end of that week, Rosewood was gone. Not just destroyed, erased. The town was literally removed from many maps. No residents returned. White families bought up the land for pennies. Generations of black wealth disappeared in smoke. For decades, survivors were threatened into silence. You couldn't even speak the word Rosewood without risking retaliation. It took until the 1990s for Florida to officially acknowledge what happened and provide a limited compensation fund to some survivors' descendants. 71 years later, Colfax, Wilmington, Elaine, Tulsa, Rosewood. Different years, different states, different excuses. The pattern never changes. Black people gain political power. They get murdered. Black communities build wealth. Their neighborhoods get burned. Black farmers organize for fair contracts. They get massacred. Black men are accused of crimes against white women. Entire towns are destroyed. White officials look away or join in. Courts twist the law. Police deputize the mobs. Newspapers blame the victims. Textbooks change the language. Massacre becomes riot. Coup becomes race conflict. Genocide becomes unfortunate violence. Now bring this back to you. Maybe your family never mentioned these places by name. But if they came from the South between 1865 and 1930, they almost certainly lived with this fear. The unspoken rule: stay in your place. Do not get too educated. Do not get too successful. Do not challenge the system, because you never know when the mob might come for you. That fear shapes decisions. It shapes where people move, whether they buy property, whether they start businesses, whether they register to vote. It shapes what they tell their children. Keep your head down. Stay invisible. Survive. So when someone today says, "Why is there a wealth gap? Why do black neighborhoods struggle? Why don't you just work harder?" You now have names, dates, places. You have a pattern. They burned your churches. They stole your land. They erased your history. But they couldn't break your spirit. In the next part of this story, the focus shifts from blood to paper, from bullets to laws, from burning towns to courtroom doors quietly closing in black faces. Because even when the guns fell silent, the system found new ways to do the same old work. And when you see how the legal system helped bury these crimes, you'll realize something else. The problem was never that your ancestors failed. The problem was that the rules were written to make their success illegal. Now you've seen the blood. Now you've seen the fire. Now you've seen the pattern of massacres and coups. So here's the hard question you have to ask next. How did they get away with all of it? They did not just rely on guns and mobs. They backed the violence with laws, with court decisions, with school books, with headlines, with silence. They built an entire system to make sure what happened in Clinton, Colfax, Wilmington, Elaine, Tulsa, and Rosewood would never fully reach your ears, your classroom, or your children. Let's start with the law. The day slavery legally ended in 1865, Southern lawmakers did not say we were wrong. Let's share power. They said, we lost one system of control. We need another. So they created black codes. New laws, same goal. If you were black and unemployed, they could arrest you for vagrancy. No job meant you were a criminal. Judges could then lease you out to plantations, railroads, mines. Work without pay. Under whip and gun again. They called it convict leasing. It was slavery with paperwork. If you were a black child, a judge could declare your parents unfit and apprentice you to a white guardian. On paper, that sounded like training. In reality, it was child slavery. The same fields, the same houses, just a new label. There were curfews. Be off the street by a certain hour or face arrest. There were labor contract laws. You had to sign a one-year contract with a white employer. If you left before the year was up, you could be dragged back in chains. So when people say slavery ended in 1865, ask them this. If a black man can be arrested for not having a job, then forced to work for free for a white man, what exactly changed? Then came Jim Crow. After federal troops fully withdrew from the South in 1877, white lawmakers felt completely unleashed. They passed law after law to push black people out of public life. Poll taxes. You want to vote, pay a fee. $1 or $2 might not sound like much now, but for a poor farmer back then, that could mean a week's food. So families had to choose, eat or vote. Literacy tests. You want to vote? Prove you can read and interpret sections of the state constitution on the spot. White officials had total power to decide if your answer was good enough. A white man might be asked to read a simple line and be passed. A black college graduate could be asked nonsense, like how many bubbles are in a bar of soap. Get it wrong, no ballot. Grandfather clauses. If your grandfather could vote before 1867, you were exempt from tests and taxes. Whose grandfathers could vote before 1867? White men. Black grandfathers were enslaved, shut out by design. In Mississippi, the same state where Charles Caldwell once helped write a constitution that opened doors A new constitution in 1890 slammed them shut again. Within a few years, black voter turnout collapsed from majorities to single digits. Not by accident, by design. When black communities tried to challenge these laws, the Supreme Court was right there to protect the system. You already heard about United States versus Cruikshank slicing the heart out of federal protection after Colfax. But it didn't stop there. In 1896, Plessy versus Ferguson blessed segregation with the phrase, separate but equal. A lie so smooth it lasted nearly 60 years. One decision gave legal cover to separate schools, separate train cars, separate waiting rooms, separate neighborhoods. In practice, separate always meant unequal. White schools got resources, black schools got scraps. Every time you see an underfunded black school in an old photo, crowded classrooms, broken desks, hand-me-down books, you are looking at the long shadow of that decision. Now look at what happened specifically after massacres like Tulsa. When Greenwood burned in 1921, people filed insurance claims. They paid their premiums. They followed the rules. Their policies covered fire. Their houses burned down. Simple right. The company should pay. The companies refused. They pointed to fine print. Clauses saying they did not have to pay in case of riot. Not massacre. Riot. That one word change did billions of dollars of damage over generations. City officials in Tulsa then rewrote building codes. If black residents wanted to rebuild, they had to use brick and steel, not wood. Much more expensive. Most could not afford it. Many lots were sold cheap to white buyers. Some of that land became part of modern Tulsa's white business district. Same land, different owners. Wealth shifted by fire ink and courtroom, not just by the mob. Law did not only allow these crimes. Often it completed the theft. But even law and bullets are not enough to bury this kind of truth. You still had witnesses, survivors, children who saw their fathers shot, women who saw their churches burn, elders who heard gunfire and screaming in the night. So the system went after memory. Schools stopped talking about Reconstruction as a moment of black genius and courage. Instead, textbooks written by white scholars in the early 1900s called it a disaster. They said black politicians were corrupt, ignorant, not ready for leadership. They painted the Klan and White Line terrorists as redeemers restoring order. Imagine that. The men who murdered your ancestors recast as heroes bringing peace. The period when black people made the greatest political gains in American history was rebranded as a mistake. Specific events just vanished. Oklahoma schools did not teach the Tulsa Massacre for roughly 3/4 of a century. Parents who lived through bombings watched their children go to class and learn nothing about it. Entire families carried unspoken trauma while their kids studied local history that erased them. In North Carolina, Wilmington 1898 stayed out of standard school curricula for about 100 years. The only coup in U.S. history. Silenced. Mississippi textbooks did not mention Charles Caldwell's name for generations. Students learned the names of Confederate generals who fought to keep black people enslaved, but not the black senator who risked his life to educate black children and protect black votes. Even the language used in the rare mentions twisted the truth. Massacres were downgraded to riots. That one word does heavy work. Riot suggests mutual chaos, equal blame, two sides out of control. It hides the power imbalance. Armed mobs versus unarmed victims. Planned attacks versus desperate defense. Clinton Massacre becomes Clinton Riot. Colfax Massacre becomes Colfax Riot. Elaine Massacre becomes Elaine Race Riot. Tulsa Massacre becomes Tulsa Race Riot. Say massacre, and you must ask who ordered it, who led it, who benefited. Say riot, and people shrug. They imagine crowds just lost their minds. Newspapers played their part too. White-owned papers routinely described black communities as the aggressors. Headlines screamed about Negro mobs, even when the bodies piling up were black. They repeated false stories about black men attacking white women to justify lynchings and pogroms. They turned victims into villains, self-defense into uprising, organized genocide into law and order. Meanwhile, black newspapers that tried to tell the truth were attacked. Literally. Wilmington's black paper was burned. Others were shut down. Editors were driven out of town, beaten, or killed. No printing presses. No black voice in the public conversation. Only one narrative left standing. The white one. Put this all together. Physical annihilation. Legal strangulation. Educational erasure. Media manipulation. This is how a whole people's suffering can be both everywhere in their lives and nowhere in their textbooks. Now, what does that mean for you sitting here listening to this in the 21st century? It means, if you feel confused about your own history, that is not your fault. If your parents could not answer your questions about where your family's land went, if your grandparents shut down when you asked about the South, if your elders told you, don't go digging in all that it hurts too much, they were not hiding the truth because it was shameful. They were hiding it because for most of their lives, telling too much truth could get you killed, or at least punished. It also means this: the story of Black America is not a story of failure. It is a story of sabotage. Your people did everything this country told them to do. They worked, they fought, they saved, they opened businesses, they voted, they ran for office, they built schools, they defended their homes. Every time they climbed, the system cut the ladder. That is why the next part of this journey has to move from history to right now. Because none of this is just about memory. It is about money, land, power. It is about why median white household wealth in America is still many times higher than median black household wealth. It is about why neighborhoods that once belonged to your people are now luxury zip codes you can barely afford to visit. We are going to talk about money now. Not in the abstract, not as some vague idea of inequality. Real money, real numbers, real wealth your ancestors built and systems this country used to steal it. Right now in the United States, the typical white household holds around 8 times the wealth of the typical black household. Not income, wealth, savings, home equity, investments, property. The stuff that gets passed down. The stuff that lets families survive emergencies and seize opportunities. People love to say that's because of culture. That's because of choices. That's because some communities don't work as hard or save as smart. You have heard those lies your whole life. But step back and look at the history you just walked through. When Charles Caldwell was murdered in his own home on Christmas Day, 1875, he was not just a politician. He was a skilled blacksmith who had turned his trade into a business. In a world where very few black people could own anything, he owned something. Land, tools, influence. If he had lived to old age, that shop could have passed to his children. Their children could have grown it, bought more property, sent their kids to school. One generation builds, the next expands. Compound growth. Instead, he was killed. His business was shattered. His family terrorized and forced to survive however they could. Whatever assets he had built in a decade of freedom were taken or destroyed. Multiply that story. In Greenwood, Tulsa, there were over 600 black businesses in 1921. Hotels, stores, offices. The community's property value has been estimated in today's dollars at hundreds of millions. In a just world, that wealth would have passed down to children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Compounded through the stock market, rolled into new businesses, spread into scholarships, homes, investments. Instead, in 18 hours, almost all of it went up in flames. Insurance companies refused to pay. The city changed the rules to block rebuilding. Survivors and their descendants did not just lose their present, they lost 100 years of future wealth. Economists who study this have tried to estimate the cumulative damage. When you add up land theft, unpaid labor massacres, discriminatory lending, redlining, segregated schools, and all the blocked opportunities, you are not talking billions. You are talking trillions in stolen black wealth. That means this: when your family starts from zero, it is not because your people never built anything. It is because what they built was burned, seized, or legally locked away. Now connect that to right now. Think about neighborhoods flipped by gentrification. For decades, black communities were redlined, starved of investment, labeled dangerous, or blighted. Property values suppressed on purpose. Then one day, developers start buying cheap. Coffee shops appear. Police presence shifts from harassment to protection. Rents skyrocket. Longtime residents, many of them black, cannot afford property taxes or higher rent and are forced out. New wealth flows in. Old residents are pushed out. The land appreciates, but not for the people who endured the hard years. Once again, black communities pay the cost. Others reap the profit. Think about the prison system. After the Civil War, black codes created convict leasing. Today, the war on drugs and tough on crime policies pack prisons with black and brown bodies. Corporations contract cheap prison labor. Communities lose fathers, mothers, siblings, creators, leaders. Wealth drains away in legal fees, lost income, broken families. The 13th Amendment outlawed slavery, except as punishment for crime. That loophole has never been closed. You see it every time a corporation profits from prison labor, while whole black neighborhoods lose generations of men to cages. Think about policing. During Reconstruction, white militias played the role of terror enforcers. Today, heavily armed police departments often occupy black neighborhoods not as protectors, but as an occupying force. Unarmed black people are killed at disproportionate rates. Officers involved rarely face consequences. The message is similar to the one Charles Caldwell's killers sent. Your life is disposable if it threatens the system. Think about voting. After Reconstruction, poll taxes and literacy tests blocked black ballots. Today, voter ID laws closed polling places, voter roll purges, and gerrymandered districts do similar work. It may look cleaner. It may come wrapped in legal language. But the goal is the same: dilute black political power. History does not repeat. It rhymes. So where does this leave you? It leaves you at a crossroads between despair and clarity. On one hand, it is heavy, painful, infuriating. To realize your people were not simply behind, but repeatedly pushed down by design. To realize your grandmother's exhaustion at the end of a 60-hour week was not just from poverty. It was from carrying the weight of stolen opportunities. To realize your parents started with nothing, not because your family line failed, but because their starting line was moved back every time they got close. On the other hand, this truth is liberating. Because once you understand the theft, you stop blaming yourself. You stop blaming your community. You stop saying, maybe we just don't know how to manage money. Maybe we just don't value education enough. Maybe something is wrong with us. No, something is wrong with the system. This is why reparations is not a radical fantasy. It is the logical response to documented theft. When someone steals your car and the police find it, no one calls it a handout when they give it back. They call it justice. When a nation steals labor land property and political power from a group of people for centuries, and then allows mobs and laws to wipe out the wealth that group manages to build, there is a debt. Immeasurable, traceable moral debt. Germany paid reparations after the Holocaust. American law supports compensating people for wrongful imprisonment. Courts award damages for stolen property and lost earnings all the time. Why should the largest, longest theft in American history be the only crime too big to pay back? Reparations is not about punishing people alive today for what their ancestors did. It is about correcting a balance sheet that still shapes your life. It is about acknowledging that the playing field is not level because the game has been rigged for centuries. It is about returning what was taken so that Black descendants are no longer expected to compete in a race where the other side started 100 meters ahead with stolen shoes. Now bring this all the way home to your identity. You are not the descendant of broken people. You are the descendant of survivors of a genocide that most of the world refuses to even call by its name. Your ancestors survived being chained in the holds of ships stacked like cargo crossing an ocean where 2 million died. They survived plantations designed to grind them into dust. They survived laws that criminalized their very existence. They survived massacres, lynchings, bombings, and coups. They built towns from nothing. They crafted businesses in the middle of terror. They created music, language, culture, and faith traditions that kept them human when the world insisted they were property. They were not weak. They were not lazy. They were some of the strongest human beings to ever walk this earth. Their strength did not vanish. It is sitting in your bones right now. The fact that you are watching or listening to this, the fact that you are hungry for this history, the fact that something in you is waking up and saying, "This explains my family. This explains my city. This explains the ache I have never been able to name." That is their gift inside you. You come from warriors. Charles Caldwell was born a slave around 1830 and became a state senator by 1868. In 7 years of freedom, he did what many said Black people could never do in a lifetime. He helped rewrite a state constitution. He organized self-defense. He held office in a hostile state. He looked the system in the eye and said, "I will not bow." The system killed him, but it didn't kill the truth he stood for. Greenwood's founders turned swampland into Black Wall Street in less than 40 years. Your people built hospitals, banks, theaters, and schools without access to mainstream capital or government subsidies. They did it under constant threat. If they could do that, then what could you do now with full truth in your hands and tools they never had? So what do you do with this? First, refuse the lies. When you hear someone say, slavery was a long time ago, you answer the theft continued through Reconstruction, Jim Crow, massacres, redlining, and mass incarceration. When they say, just work harder, you answer, we have always worked. The problem is, we have not been allowed to keep what we earn. When they say, why can't you just move on? You answer, you cannot move on from a wound that is still bleeding. Second claim, your story. Tell your children about Charles Caldwell, about Clinton, Colfax, Wilmington, Elaine, Tulsa, Rosewood. Say their names at your table, in your group chats, in your Bible studies, in your barbershops and beauty salons. Do not wait for schools to do this. Many still will not. You become the textbook. Third, build with a different mindset. You now know that every time Black communities have built, systems have tried to destroy. So when you build businesses, institutions, and ministries today, you build with protection and collective resilience in mind. You support Black-owned media. You back Black legal organizations. You invest in community land trusts and cooperatives that make it harder for gentrification and speculation to strip everything away. You do not just chase individual success, you chase collective security. Fourth, push for structural change. Demand policies that close the wealth gap not by slogans, but by cash and land. Support serious reparations, proposals at local and national levels. Push for voting rights, protections. Fight for fair housing, fair lending, student debt relief, criminal justice reform. Not as random issues, but as pieces of a long overdue repair. You cannot do everything, but you can do something. Finally, hold on to the spiritual truth running through this entire story. This is not just about America failing you. This is also about God preserving you. Because by every human logic, your people should not exist. The Middle Passage should have erased you. The plantations should have erased you. The massacres and lynchings and bombings should have erased you. Jim Crow should have erased you. The war on drugs should have erased you. And yet here you are. In the Black church, we have always known something the textbooks could not admit. God kept us. God heard the prayers whispered in slave cabins. God saw the tears after midnight raids. God sat in those pews where we sang, "We've come this far by faith," while the world laughed. God heard Charles Caldwell's last words to his killers. Do not forget that you were Christians. Those words are a warning, but they are also a call. If you follow Christ, you do not get to hide behind race, party, or tradition. You align with truth. You stand with the oppressed. You refuse to worship a Jesus who blesses genocide. You choose the Jesus who overturned tables, who stood with the marginalized, who said, "Whatever you do to the least of these, you do to me." So now, as this story closes, this is the invitation. If this truth stirred something in you, do not just click away and forget. Let it change how you see yourself. Let it change how you talk to your children. Let it change what you demand from your leaders. And let it draw you closer to the God who carried your people through fire. Share this story with someone who has only heard the lies. A friend, a coworker, a family member, someone from any background who thinks they know American history. Because injustice anywhere really does threaten justice everywhere. Everybody needs to see how deep the roots go. And if you are hungry for more of this kind of history, more stories of erased heroes, more exposure of hidden systems, more truth that leads to healing, stay connected. There are hundreds more stories like this. Stories of Black senators, Black millionaires, Black pastors, Black mothers and fathers who resisted darkness with faith and courage. Before we end, let's pray. God of our weary years and silent tears, God who has seen us through slavery, through Reconstruction, through Jim Crow, through mass incarceration. Thank you for every ancestor who refused to give up. Thank you for Charles Caldwell, for his courage, for his sacrifice, for the truth his blood still speaks. We ask you to open our eyes. Tear down every lie we have been taught about our history, about our worth, about our future. Heal the trauma sitting in our bodies from generations of terror. Give us the strength to forgive without forgetting, to seek justice without losing our souls, to love ourselves the way you love us. Bless every person hearing this. Restore what was stolen in their families. Open doors no system can shut. Give wisdom to build wealth that blesses communities, not just individuals. Raise up leaders with the courage of Caldwell, the wisdom of our elders, and the heart of Christ. And Lord, convict this nation. Expose the systems that still profit from exploitation. Stir the hearts of those with power to pursue real repair. Let truth rise higher than fear. Let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like a mighty stream. We thank you that we are still here, that we are not victims, but survivors. Not broken, but chosen. Help us walk in that identity every day. In Jesus' name, amen.